consciousness, I relate to this very much because for me, in my everyday life, I seem to be compelled to maintain a certain focus that is tighter than I know myself to be. Okay, so this is like, the feeling is almost as if my spirit holds onto this life by a very thin string. And through that very thin bandwidth, everything that I know that I am needs to somehow be integrated here and come out here and be guided through this narrow-minded focal point of the body-mind experience. So I very much relate to the sense of that compelling nature of compassion itself, to where I will maintain this focus even though it feels like a strain, not out of alignment, there's a difference, but it feels like a strain, at times more so than others, because the focus, it's like wearing a suit that's too tight. You know, you've grown too fat or too muscular, either way, and you no longer fit in this suit, so it's kind of like squeezing you off a little bit, but there's no real other way, in a sense, to be myself as fully as I can be here without, in a sense, popping out or being disconnected from what we would perceive as this particular collective reality. So there's such an emptying out of personal need or neediness or lack beliefs that happens when this compassion that is innate to my soul drives me to maintain a focus that feels somewhat like a strain, like a contraction. But to learn to operate with that to the fullest of your ability, and never or hardly ever complaining about it or having thoughts of complaint arise about that, allows for a true emptying out of self and allows for a true getting to know what shepherding consciousness is all about. And it does give you the bliss of complete service, knowing what it's like to no longer be living for your own life, inclusive of your own life, and listening to your own passions and desires and intuitions, obviously. But all of that passion, desire, and intuition now is about everyone as a whole. So now, especially the group that I'm with at any given moment, in this case this would be you guys. When I'm at my office it would be my crew. But in general it's also the collective at large. So my sense of self has become everyone. And there is a very rare beauty in that. There's a very pristine bliss that is available in that makes all the contractions and all the constraints well worth it, and very rewarding. Anyway, the fall and rise of our civilization describes this epic time on planet Earth, in our civilization, where all the old systems start to crumble. Okay, the most impactful ones being probably the economical systems around the world. Just the view on health and nature and how to appreciate that. Even things like the medical world, but also obviously the government and politics. It's all coming to some kind of a collapse, this inevitable collapse of trying to maintain something, trying to maintain an old world view that simply within the frequency that our planet is moving into as we speak, that our collective is ready for as we speak, cannot survive. It cannot last within that frequency. So these in institutions, these agencies, these people, these persons, those invested in the old paradigm, they are stressing out. They are backs against the wall, fire in front of them. There is, it's kind of like damage, damage control, or like trying to manage the last bits of what they can manage. And so this will come out. We will see this in the world as flurries and explosions of, sometimes literally explosions, of violence, of confusion, of collapsing systems, etc. So the whole point of these 4 meetings is to together as a community come together, both locally but also especially, thank you live streamers for being present, internationally, to come together in a unified sense, in a unified awareness of what is happening, why it's happening, and how we can prepare ourselves for the biggest changes to come, indeed, during this fall and the remaining of this year. It's a very exciting time, you see, but it's something that cannot really be denied unless you want to live in a cave and just not worry about anything and live off of air. But even then, even if you're in a cave and you're living off of air, that air still is dependent on the quality of what's happening elsewhere in the world. There's no real way to be physically incarnate at this moment and at the same time not really care. There's no way. I mean, if you do that, that's fine, but that is coming from a place of not really being ready to embrace a larger self, to embrace a larger collective as your own, to embrace civilization as your own. We have become disempowered, we have accepted that disempowerment, and out of that disempowerment, that mass disempowerment, we've all turned to our own little bubbles of reality, okay? And that's what occupies most of us. My daily struggles, my daily processes. I'll get there someday. This is what I want. Why isn't it happening yet? I'll watch another YouTube video. I'll make sure that by next year I have what I want. That's all perfectly fine. My whole point being is that personal empowerment is included in the expansion of your consciousness to embrace a larger entity as your own self. Does that make sense? I'll repeat that. Personal empowerment is included naturally, is naturally induced, is naturally a given. The things that you desire, the life that you desire is naturally given to you when you allow your consciousness to expand, to include a larger entity than your own as your own. And this is what's so crucial about being on this planet at this time. This is what's so crucial. And we have opportunities like never before with the internet, with the connectedness, with the rising need and desire and passion for spiritual awakening and personal empowerment and being of service to others. This really is a very exciting time, and I know that all philosophers of all times have said that, but this really is an exciting time. And so it's time for us all to take our personal empowerment to a next level and to blend it with, to whatever extent you are presently capable of, shepherding consciousness and including a larger body as your own self. And so that's what these meetings are about, and because of the timing of what's happening, and again, those that can tune into the probabilities will notice a lot of what's going on and can even predict some of the things that are about to happen, or at least have an abstract sense of it. And so get excited by these intuitions because they're for real. They're not just figments of your imagination. If you're connected, you are sensing that stuff is about to go down. Things are happening.